Okay, so for the time manager, I basically made it into a singleton because it would make sense that there's only one timeline. And what the time manager basically does is it has two stopwatches, current time and then the total time. And on its update, which is called from the game loop, you talk and tick the current frame time just to get the time at that frame, and then in the total time you keep talking just to keep adding on to that total time. In order to actually get the stopwatches to work, you have to initialize them, which is called in the game initialize. So you can see initialize stopwatches. And that basically just does the same thing in the example where it just gets those stopwatches going. And in order to test that this works, I basically just called the function that gives back the total time and the current time in the game loop. So the total time should just keep counting the seconds. 1, 2, 3, etc. So that works. And then the other one should just give you the frame time. It'll just spew out every frame's time. So that works too. Okay, so the next thing we're going to start talking about is the alarm system, and the first thing I'm going to talk about is the alarmable. And the alarmable basically has callback functions for alarms 0 to 2, and then it has a dispatch which just chooses between these alarms dependent on the alarm ID that's passed in. And also, the get time and the set time in order for the time manager actually to the alarm manager to actually be able to put what time it's set for. Then I have a register for alarm, deregister for alarm that just calls that long, really long method name in order to actually register. And for the alarmable, of course, like I said, the scene manager just registers and then it keeps going and going and going. And the dispatch is just a simple switch statement. I decided to make the alarm manager not a singleton and instead basically be a component of the scene, so that each scene has its own alarm managers. In the case of, let's say, wanting a pause kind of scene or a menu scene, and then we could just go back directly to this previous scene and have everything go back to what the state was from before the menu. And so in the alarm manager we just have register and deregister and update alarms pretty much. And what the register does is just basically see if there's already one in there, and by one I mean the same registrant that has the same ID, and if there is, then it'll overwrite that, because to me it made sense that if you wanted to register it again, it would just kind of overwrite it, kind of like adding time almost, but more of just erasing it. And then for deregister, it's the same thing, where instead of it tries to find the same alarmable and ID that's passed in, but if it's not, then there's no reason to delete anything because that will crash it, and instead you'll get it hasn't been found in registry, meaning you've never even registered it yet. And then update alarms, what it does is the same thing that you told us in class, where it checks each alarm's marker's time, and at each frame, if that current time is less than the is greater than the top of the map, so to speak, time, then you have to call back the dispatch, and that's because that means that you've passed that trigger time. And then going off from the alarm manager to the alarm marker, to see that how it works, it's basically in the previous one when it calls execute alarm, it calls the alarm marker's registered pointer to the alarmable. It calls the dispatch and then the ID, and then if we go to the alarmable, that dispatch again is that switch statement, so it'll call either alarm 0 function, alarm 1, or alarm 2, and if there isn't one already, then it'll just call the kind of default alarmable one, which just does nothing. And that's pretty much it for the overall system. And then for testing it, what I did was I had the user file, and I had a level which just basically creates a ship and a weird shape, and upon creation of those objects, it's going to register itself for the alarms. So in this case, it's going to register for an alarm 0 for 1 second alarm, 1 for 3 seconds alarm, 2 for 7 seconds, and those will just say our alarm 0 triggered, alarm 1 triggered, etc. And there is no second one here, just to show that it won't crash or anything, it'll just do nothing. So there's that 1 second one, then the 3 second, and then the 7 seconds should show up soon. I mean shouldn't, because there is none. So as you can see, nothing has shown up. And then just to show that it also works with multiple objects, I did the same for the alarms for another derived class from a game object, which is called weird shape, and that'll activate in 5 seconds, and it'll just say alarm 0 is activated. So it should come up after this. There you go, and that's it. That's pretty much it. And then just to show that deregistration works, I basically went into the ship, and where I registered the alarms, I also deregistered them. So that should work. And also, if I deregister them again, it shouldn't crash. It should just say that, oh, it hasn't found it in this case. So there you go. It hasn't found this, the alarm 0 or 1 or 2. And that's it.